we're going to bring our talent in, Eleni, and she's going to sit here and we're going to demonstrate the 5 different portrait positions for lighting. Now, first off, I would never have a woman sit straight to the camera because it's not flattering. You want to turn them slightly, one way or the other. We're going to turn her slightly to her left. It gives a nice line here, and then we're going to look in. That gives us our starting point for our light. I've just moved the light just a little bit around to camera right here. As you see, as the light moves around to the right, the shadow off from her nose closes a loop on the shadow from her cheek. We get what's called a Rembrandt, which is a small triangle on the right side of her face. Well, that's a classic Rembrandt light. There's no shadow fill, there's nothing to this light. This is a single light, just showing you a single light placement for a Rembrandt light. I'm going to move us from a Rembrandt light. We can still see the small triangle on her right cheek, and I'm going to move this around to a strong split light. We go way back behind so that the light really is splitting her face. We get a strong highlight side into a strong shadow side. That in doing so, we really get a split light that runs right down the core, the nose line, bridge of the face. This really is more of a dramatic, interesting lighting, and that you really get that highlight and shadow. Depending on how much, and we haven't really filled our shadow side right now. The more you fill the shadow side, the more comfortable you're with this light. The less you fill it, the more it's going to feel dramatic or feel a little more like you're wanting to make a statement. So there's a split light, a strong split light. We have the light right now in pretty much the split light position. We're going to go to what's called a broad light. In order to do that, I'm going to move this light back around to basically our Rembrandt position. But now I'm going to get Eleni to slide to turn, and she's going to face away from the light. As she faces away from the light, we now are back into the Rembrandt, but the Rembrandt is away from us, is not on the camera side, but on the far side from the camera. We now are looking into the broad side of her face, or the lit side of her face. That's considered a broad light. For the very reason, by the name, it's called broad, that we're looking to the broad lit side of the face rather than the shadow side of the face. You know, this is a preference. Some people love this light, some people use it. I don't find this the most flattering. Although as you use people, they're going to move in and out of all these different types of light. If your light is in the right position, it'll flow from a Rembrandt to a broad to a split very comfortably. If the light's not in the right position, you don't get that fluid motion between those 3 light setups. So there's a broad light that we can see on her face. We've now moved our softbox more forward. We put it on a small boom in order that we can get the softbox up high and on an angle, a steep angle to our subject. The reason is this is called a butterfly or a paramount light. We want to have the light directly above the camera. In doing so, we get a nice shadow just underneath her nose. It's called a butterfly light or a paramount light. It really gives us a nice shadow on the cheeks, on right and left. It gives us a nice chin shadow underneath. This is very much a beauty light for women. Now if we just take a fill card and put it underneath and bounce just a little bit of light up into her face, it's really going to open this up and make this a very pretty light. We're going to turn the white side up. If we just put this onto her lap, then looking right in there, we'll be able to see that that's filled all of our... As her chin goes down, you see that shadow build. You don't want it really to touch her lip. You want it just to be off her lip, so you have a little bit of separation there. This kind of helps, fills up that chin area from underneath and fills up the shadow area under her nose. It's a very pretty light. And also, you'll get a nice light. And I'll talk about that for a second here as you take this out. If you look in her eyes, and as we're in close, you'll see a little square in the eyes from the softbox. If you don't get some kind of a highlight in their eye, people don't look alive. And so you really want to see a really nice kind of a small square of some sort in the eye, and this gives us just right overhead, you see that square. It tells us, so if you really want to, if you're looking at a picture and you're wondering how is this lit, look at their eyes. You'll see a round thing, a round object in there for a umbrella. You'll see a square for a softbox. You can see sometimes the softbox and the fill light if you look. Now, of course, when you get a retoucher, like my wife does, they'll clean all that stuff up and make it what they want. You can see now that we've moved our light around. We don't have that same steep angle right directly between the camera and above her face. We've moved the light just slightly to camera right. In doing so, we now have created on her face a small loop of light, a loop shadow that starts to build on her right cheek. It's no longer centered. and giving us the same shadow on both cheeks. We're now moving to the right side, moving to that right side, and we're going to highlight one side and shadow the other just slightly. It's really just a variation of the butterfly. You can accomplish this on the ground. You don't have to have this boom light to do it, but it's just, you want the light a little higher than when you do a Rembrandt light. You want the light a little higher. It's more in the same position as a butterfly light as far as height goes. A lot of these decisions on what you do with this light depends on the individual. She's gorgeous. It's easy to light her face. If you have people who have older faces, if you have people who have different features that create shadows and issues, the different lights are going to be better for different individuals. It really will make a difference on who it is you're photographing. So there's a quick look at a loop light. I'm just going to talk for 1 minute about what each of these lights are doing right now on camera. We have a key light. Between the key light and our subject, we put a P22, which is meant to be a softener for that light. It's a little harsh, and we want to just soften the light out a little bit, which causes the highlights to kind of wrap around into the shadow area. It makes it much prettier. We've added a fill light here in order to fill in the shadow side. We have a key light, or a rim light from behind that rims her hair, gives her separation from the background. We then have a background light that is on the background that gives us a highlight from the left side to a darker shadow on the right side that allows us to separate her from the background. Where she is highlighted, it is darker. Where she is darker, it's lighter. And that gives us separation for our subject from the background. So just from overhead, we can see exactly where each of these are. We can see where each of the lights are placed, our highlight, our key light, our rim light, our background light, and our fill light. So it gives you a good sense of where this light. It's pretty compact, but each of the lights here are accomplishing their goal in order to make her look good. We got some great shots of Eleni. I'm going to help Adam take the set down now, and then we're going to show you some of the bicycle shots that we did for electro bicycles.